Hey JD, welcome to our podcast. I have a special co-host Jackson today, so welcome to both of you guys. Um, I mean, we've talked quite a bit in the past on Twitter and others kind of social media. Um, it's been a pretty interesting ride with USA Handball in the last bit here, watching it on social media and the growth of it and your national teams and, me as a past coach being able to play against them. Jackson is a member of the national team. And so just really curious about this, what you guys are doing right now and about the World Championships, and you guys are in Denmark. So just really want to know more about what's going on. If you can give us a little bit about your job description with USA Handball right now for the Denmark and Egypt trip.
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot going on right now. So I serve as the team manager. I joked earlier today that it's, really the job description is assistant to the assistant regional manager for all those office fans out there. But I really am the team leader, the second team leader. They just didn't want to call it another team leader position, but Andreas Hertelt and I have been handling all the team leader duties. So making sure everybody's got ducks in a row as far as passports, visas, getting a COVID test, jerseys, get to practice, making sure the gym's locked up, XYZ, just typical, I call it team dad role. So I also carry around all the camera equipment. So I'm on the side helping Melissa with social media and getting pictures taken and content that we can send out. So a lot to do on that front. So we've been very busy these last couple of days here in Denmark. We had COVID quick test every 3 days. So currently we have 2 doctors on staff. So we have a physiotherapist, and Dr. Pauly is, oh man, blanking. It's a little late here. He's orthopedic guy. So between the 2 of them, they're kind of handling currently any injuries as well as administering COVID tests. And then when we arrive in Cairo, Dr. Michael Hinson will be there as our kind of lead COVID director and team doctor for any, help maintain all COVID regulations, rules, etc. Right now, where we're staying in Denmark, we're in, and Jackson, you might be able to help me a little bit, or both of you guys might be able to help me a little with the pronunciation, but Vien, Vejen, I think they've been saying it Vine, but
yeah,
I feel
Vine.
like that. Okay. It's a nice little small town. We were in Tuner with the Ohio State team a couple of years ago. It's almost identical.
Yeah.
So we're at a sport hotel. The sport center is across the street. We wake up, practice, or breakfast, practice, lunch, break, practice, dinner, film or other team meeting, and rest, repeat. So it's been quite a nonstop situation. But yeah, as I serve as team manager, I'm trying to just make sure everybody's having a good time, everybody's following the rules, mostly mask police. That's been my number one job so far. But as well as we've had some issues with passport confirmation from the IHF and other getting some last minute stuff to the IHF, because as you guys realize, we were selected a little bit late to the party, which has made the concept of deadlines pretty much obsolete for us. So we're just scraping by. I'm glad I brought all my camera equipment. We took the team photo yesterday with all my stuff, so that was nice. But yeah, that's kind of jack all trades, I think, is really the title of team manager.
Just before you came on, I was talking with Jackson. Jackson was in, where were you, Jackson?
I was in Aaron, which is like 10 minutes from where you guys are.
So he was telling me that everything is shut down. How are you guys able to how did this come about, and how are you allowed to have a camp and be able to play games?
Yeah, so it was a very good question, because the camp was originally supposed to be held in Oslo, right outside Oslo at they have a new sports complex. I think it's about half an hour south of Oslo at this convention center that they just built. It was a very nice facility. But Norway was not allowing American passport holders or American mainland citizens into the country. So as you know, with the women's European Championships, that they relocated it to all in Denmark. We kind of jumped on that bandwagon and moved our efforts to Denmark. But I think it was last week or sometime this week that they made it fully locked down here. So we had to get letters from USA Handball as well as the Danish teams and the hotel that we're staying at as essentially approval that we are professional athletes and that we're here on professional sports business, et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing I forgot to mention is the hotel that we're staying in right now. I think there's only one other person, and he's in a completely other part of the hotel. So we have not come in contact with any non-team related individuals, which has been a huge benefit to us staying here. It's a nice thing because of the situation. It's almost better because there's just nobody out and about and there's no chance for interaction for us. So we were very fortunate on that side. And even in the gym, we've had a lot of interview folks and media attention from the Danish news come over and obviously keep your distance, wear your mask, etc. So that's gone over pretty well. But in regards to us being kind of getting this special privilege, I do not consider myself a professional athlete in any way, but I like to say that I'm now part of the professional staff, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's really the only reason we got to travel. And we had several issues, which was another part of my role as team manager. We had several issues getting players to Denmark. Our first player to leave was coming from Egypt, actually, and he was denied travel because of the COVID test that he supplied and the documentation that he had supplied. It wasn't adequate for the Egyptian airline situation. Everybody else, besides one other person, got out without a hitch. So we just had to make sure everybody had the right papers, right letters printed out, easily presentable to the passport control folks and what's the word I'm looking for?
The immigration guys.
Immigration. Thank you. So yeah, that's where things have been at, and that's where I'm a little concerned about I'm not concerned, but I'm interested to see how things go over on our trip to Egypt. Should be okay. I think regulations are a little stricter here coming in than they are going into Egypt, so that's a good sign. But we had more issues because Adam El-Zogby, the player coming from Egypt, he was being told that he would not be allowed to enter Germany without he needed some other document that we did not have supplied for him, and it ended up having to be a misunderstanding with the Egyptian airline. We got it worked out, but he missed his initial flight, which is a problem.
Any questions, Jackson?
Not yet. It just seems it's crazy that I'm still mind blown you guys are in Denmark because I left because there was no games and coach was like, yeah, we won't be playing till at least end of February. And I was like, shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's ghost town out here. We walk to and from the facility and you might see one person walking a dog, and that's pretty much it. It's also, snowing and cold, but I think Danish people are used to that, so not really a showstopper.
So what about food there? Do you have chefs or cooks, or you guys do it yourself?
They have a cafe, so there's the same staff all the time, and they present it buffet style, which again is one of the questions with COVID is how it's, whether it's served by the staff or et cetera. But we, because we're I like to think we're following that kind of herd immunity situation. They bring it out to the table on burners and in large trays, like serving trays, just like you would at any buffet. And that's how it's been done. There's been no interaction with the staff. So that's good. And the food's been great. So definitely everybody's been very pleased about that. I know last time I was in Denmark and when we stayed at a similar situation, it was great food the entire week we were there, and we've had the same experience thus far. and we're looking forward to what the food will be like in Egypt. I'm a big Middle Eastern fan, at least Arabic food, so hoping for plenty of hummus.
Now, who supplies the COVID tests? Is it the Denmark Handball Federation or?
So for the quick tests, USA Team Handball paid for those and the doctors brought them with them. But for the COVID-19 test that we have to take prior to traveling for our flight, the Danish Federation is the one supplying those, and they'll be the ones administering the tests, so we can get results back in a quick manner for PCR testing. And that way it's the same way that the Danish national team's doing it, and there's no question that we're following the right procedure because they know what they're doing. So
Are you
So
guys
sorry, go on, Jackson.
are you guys flying down with like the Danish and Norwegian team? Or are you guys taking public flights?
good question. I honestly don't know. We're flying out of Billund. I would imagine Danish team's probably flying out of Copenhagen, but
They're all
I don't know.
They're all located in Herning right now.
Okay, so
They'll probably be flying out of the same airport. So
okay. Well, our flight's at 6:45 in the morning, so I don't know. We'll see. I would imagine they would fly down the day before we fly down, just because there's less issues, especially on like my part. Like I'm being sent down by myself to go to the technical meeting because we won't get into Cairo in time. The team lands at 6:30 and the technical meeting's at 8:30. It's about an hour drive, so it's not worth the risk of missing the technical meeting. So I'm just going down the day beforehand. So we'll see how it goes.
Last thing before we get into Egypt and all that is where, like, I don't know how much you could answer this, but where did all this funding come from? Because this can't be cheap.
Good question. Good question. So I can explain pretty clearly. I don't think it's any mystery, but each team was gifted $25,000 from the IHF to cover the Egypt side of things, as well as I think there was some other funding that helped cover the Egypt side. But as far as the Denmark side, from the USA Team Handball standpoint, we got another small chunk from the IHF, and then we also were allotted funding from the USOPC for COVID, basically relief. So each of the NGBs within the USOPC got X amount of dollars that needed to be spent towards high performance in 2021. So we have a portion of that. I don't know if you saw or if it's been announced yet, but they renewed the Verizon deal, so there's some money there as well. And that's kind of helps. That helps a lot right there. I'm trying to make sure I covered everything, but
any players have to pay any money, or was it all?
So players only had to pay money if you were not, for at least a training camp, if you were not a part of the top 25. So the 20 players that would be going, that they listed for Egypt, and then the 5 alternates. So any players outside of that had to pay their own way. And then for the 5 alternates, if the airfare was over, or the travel cost to get there were over X amount of dollars, I don't remember what it was, that they would have to pay the difference. But other than that, everything else has been covered.
And that's
So that team picture, not everybody is going to Egypt.
That is correct. Yeah.
So is this a selection done, or is it like you guys are selecting the top 20 from this camp?
Sorry, Jackson, what'd you say?
They're going to be selecting the team like 5 minutes before the flight.
So I think Robert has a pretty good grip on who he's going to be taking as the top 20. As you probably saw from the roster, there was 5 goalies listed. We don't need to take 5 goalies. One of them, he's very young. Make sure he's not sitting here. He's 16 years old, Amir Durakovic. He's Bosnian. He's young talent. It's good to get him in the system, but obviously he's 16, so he's got some time to develop. So he's not going to be going And then I think the other goalie, Douglas Otterstrom, he also will not be coming. But the other three alternates, one of them did not show because he knew that he would not be able to attend the World Cup because of work and school and some other issues, I believe, which leaves, I believe, Alex Banderas and I'm blanking on who the last alternate was, but those two are basically fighting for a spot, and Robert will make the decision. I'd imagine we have to make the decision by 9 a.m. of the 13th, I think, per the IHF rules. So we still have time, and we have one more game here against I talked to Chris O'Reilly about pronunciation today, and I'm already going to mess it up, but Sundariski, I think.
I can't even pronounce that. It's
okay.
Like a crazy Danish word that no Englishman can pronounce.
So we played them, and they're currently, I think, in 5th place in the Danish league. So we'll see how that goes. And
the team you played today was in the top division?
Yeah, so they're currently ranked 10th in the Danish league. I know that there was a lot of questions about what team, whether it was the youth team or the actual team, the first team. From my eyes, I don't know them firsthand, and I had a guy who lives here in Denmark with us basically telling me who to watch out for, and he recognized a lot of the first team guys out there. So I'll get it out right now that don't believe all the Danish news that they lost to the youth team. There was a couple guys from I'd say the development team, but not a full starter, not a full 7 of youth players.
Is the news saying you guys lost to their youth team?
I don't know, but I just know that I've had several folks reach out to me asking me if we lost to the youth team, and I've had to clarify that many times already today. So I just want to get it out there, public for everybody. So
well, I would assume too for you guys, it's your coach is Robert's preparing for the competition and seeing how people play in certain positions. I don't think he's there in that game just to win the game.
Right. And that's, something that, pardon me, working with this light here. That was something that I know we worked on today, was trying out and experimenting with different, both defenses, offensive schemes, personnel, the whole 9 yards. We've had all 3 goalies play, which is not something you would normally do, obviously. But all 3 of them did very well, I think. Personally, as a goalie, I always like seeing our goalies do well. It was a lot of experimentation. And I think one of the things that you look at the score, it's not really a fair representation. I've had folks tell me that, if you can't beat this team and with their youth team, you're going to lose by 40 to Norway and France. And I was like, okay, thanks. You just think that, and we'll watch and see what happens against Austria. So,
yeah. You guys have a lot of newer players on the team that haven't been part of the program. Have you been impressed with these new players? Anyone that's really stood out to you, where you're like, this is a big part of the USA Handball team?
Yeah, so we've had, especially this week, there's been 3 guys that stick out to me as kind of a nice set of newcomers, 2 Danes, Nikolai Weber and Jacob Christensen, and both are very young, so there's a lot of future growth with them.
Sorry, how old are they?
Nikolai, I think, is 19 or 20, and Jacob's 17.
And positions?
They're both lefties, so Nikolai is much taller than Jacob, but he's more that lanky type, so he's, I think, used to playing wing, but he can play back, and then Jacob typically plays back.
And what about the right back that's playing in Flensburg? He's supposed to be young, but like 6'6". Is he there?
Tristan Morawski. No, he is not here. He's only 16.
Okay.
So he's still very young, but he's definitely a good future talent. And the third guy that has been a nice surprise is Alex Blanco. He plays for Cisne, I don't know how to pronounce it, in the as an Azabal league in Spain. He plays center back, left or right-handed. It was good to watch him play today against some good competition. He's very crafty, good shot, very creative on the court. So that'll be good. Hit good balance with him and Ian together and Abu in the backcourt potentially. So that's kind of some of the things we were playing around with to see what other offensive schemes we could come up with to utilize all of our weapons at once. But yeah, Jacob is currently he's taking it easy. He got banged up in practice, so it wasn't worth risking it for him. And then Nikolai, he's been playing a good bit. So those three are kind of the newcomers, and it's one of those frustrating things that you find them so late in the game. But like for instance, Alex Chan, he had sent an email to USA Handball a couple of years ago asking about how he could get onto the team, and it just went unread in an email. So yeah, so it's been a little frustrating.
I hope those young guys come and play U21. I'd actually like some competition from the U.S. when we play them now instead of the group you guys just throw together before tournaments. So
yeah, and that's where these guys, they're both Danish, Nikolai and Jacob. I'd never heard of them, I never seen them, and they came out of the woodwork, and they've had Danish TV personalities here every day, reporters, newspaper groups doing articles. So it's great press for us. I still haven't seen a whole lot, of action from them yet. So we'll see what happens. But it's just always good to get, new faces in the crowd. And I know that my personal opinion on this is it's tough for me as one of the few guys based in the States to see the huge influx of European-based talent, and I understand that there's a win now, win later debate, and it's just one of those things I accept and move on from. But we got to work on it, and everybody recognizes we got to work on it, and that's what I'm trying to do is make sure that everybody and their brother knows that we're here, because I have to tell these guys, they're like, yeah, I'm really excited to play. Everybody's going to know handball, and I'm like, nobody knows you exist. Nobody knows this team exists. Nobody knows this sport exists. So that's,
I was actually having a conversation with someone today, and we were talking about the big social media push you guys are having right now, which is fantastic. But will it translate to growth in USA Handball? Because now if there's 50 people in a certain place that want to play handball, is there the infrastructure to build something in that area? So it'll be interesting to see what this does with USA Handball.
Yeah, so I personally am very excited. As you know, we got a new CEO who started this week. He's as he said in our board meeting yesterday, it's a little bit of a fire hose to the mouth right now, but he's getting caught up to speed. He's been making a lot of great decisions early on, and he's very direct, which is good. But as far as Melissa and her work that she's done at this camp, which it's been huge, and I commend her, and I'm happy to help in whatever way I can to make sure we get as enough attention on this as possible. And one of the key aspects that I think will help boost awareness of the event is the TV presence, and that's something that we have been working on for the last couple months. And we were supposed to get an answer today, and it's I'm trying to think what time it is. It's 6:00 Eastern time right now. I haven't received any messages about the situation, but we were in communication with ESPN about potentially broadcasting on ESPN Plus. Yeah. So that would have been a huge step. Otherwise, the alternative was to go to beIN Sports, which, as you know, is not as large of a network, but still something. So
there's still a chance it could be ESPN Plus?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Huge.
Very big. So as far as how we capture, that's one of the big things I always bring up to people is how do we bring out our net to get all those new handball fish and capture them and bring them into our community. I've had some recent success just by happenstance, and it's one of those things that it's a real personal connection that needs to be made to make sure that, folks can feel like they are empowered to start their own club because, as you know, we don't have obviously that infrastructure to create a league and things like that, but we're working on that. And I think when we get more clubs in closer proximity, it'll help the league will be much easier to achieve. So we got a team started down in Lexington, Kentucky, which is only about 3-hour drive from me. So that's very easy to do. young, passionate group of college kids, as well as they have some Ruben Humada. He's a professional coach from Spain, just happens to live there. They got another guy that played third league German that happens to live there. So they got a nice little team coming together, and I'm really excited about that. And that's, a story that he just saw something on TikTok and reached out to USA Handball, and then just like that, we got a new team. So is that a sustainable method of growth? Absolutely not. But until we get a stronger core that we can build something similar to what you guys have in Alberta, it's progress. So
you talked a little bit about the Americans that live in America that play. How has the progression been? Obviously Drew and Ty have played in Europe, but I mean, they're both from the States.
Mm-hmm.
How's their progression? Have you been really impressed with them in the growth?
Yeah, I think Drew especially, he's definitely changed his game quite a bit. It's been cool to watch, having played against him in college and seeing how far he's come and how far he continues to go, and being as big as he is, it definitely helps being a little bit of a defensive special as well as a powerful pivot. And Ty, same thing. His shooting skills have increased dramatically. It's been cool to watch, and that's something that I tell our guys at Ohio State when I'm coaching them. I'm like, hey, even if we go over for a week, it's a huge difference in just a week's time of getting that high level European coaching. So even just that little bit makes a huge difference as far as growth back home. And Joey Williams and I have been working with mostly Joey and I piggyback off of him, but he's been working with bringing some European coaches over for training camps. And he brought Frederick Green from IFK Tumba in Sweden to coach Detroit for a week, and they drove down to Ohio State and coached my club when I wasn't even there. And our guys learned a lot just from one practice. So we need more of that, and it's something that I'm hoping to build a lot of relationships when I'm in Egypt next week. I brought a lot of business cards to sling out and see who wants to help America.
Yeah, that's great. Now heading into Egypt, what are the protocols getting in, and how many days before do you get in? Because I think you said you get in the 13th.
So the team gets in the 13th at about 6:30 p.m. I will be getting in on the 12th, so I can make it to the technical meeting. So the technical meeting's at 8:30 on the 13th. So there's not a lot of confidence that the team would make it to that technical meeting, which is why I'm getting in by myself.
And your first game's on the 14th.
Correct. Yep.
So that's a tight timeline.
Yeah. So the problem is that the cost to arrive, any time before the 13th was pretty steep, to the point where it was not worth. It was one of those we could fly in on the 12th and not have to deal with the hassle of the late flight, but then we'd have to pay. I think it was going to be like $10,000 in hotel fees for that one night. Or we get it on the 13th and everybody gets less rest and transition. So that's the path we took because of how pinched we are on the budget, which, as you guys can imagine.
Yeah. I know at juniors and youth championships, like the world's, the federations pay for the money. Like Canada, when they went last year, they pay for hotels and all that. At seniors, doesn't the host pay for the lodging and food?
Right. That's all covered in the starting on the 13th, though.
On the 13th.
So that starts on the 13th till whenever you leave. So.
And for one extra day would be about $10,000.
No. Because of COVID, you can only have so many people in a room, so you need extra rooms, and the rooms are $350 a night. So it ended up being, or maybe it was $10,000 with the flight change or something like that. It would end up being a large amount that wasn't worth the getting in a day early.
And how are the protocols for Egypt? Like, I know that they say you're in a bubble pretty much.
Yeah, it's as a bubble as a bubble can be. So obviously you're still going to have food service staff and officials and things like that aren't technically staying in the same hotels that are coming in. And I mean, for instance, like the food staff at the hotel, they're still going home to their house and things like that. So it's just like I'd imagine the NBA situation. I don't know how those employees, if they lived on the Disney campus throughout that stay. But as far as how they've broken down the arena and basically into 4 quadrants, so one half is just fans. The ends, I think, are empty space, and then behind the bench is auxiliary staff and VIP and media. So because the media, you had to get media, I don't know if you saw that or not, but you had to get media accreditation in order to basically get on site, and you'd have to stay in the hotels with, the team, so you're all in that bubble environment. And I think all the fans still have to get at least temperature readings done prior to entry, and I have to double check what else. I think there's some other things that the fans have to do. But yeah, we have to get our test done. I think we're getting our test done on the 11th so that it's ready for the 13th. And then other than that, it's, I think every 3 days there'll be another test. And if someone tests positive, they basically get sent into quarantine and have to verify everybody else is good. And that's why we have the 4 alternate players. So each team's taken 20 guys. So you can take 16 on the bench, and then there's 4 that just are basically COVID relief players.
What happens if there's not enough players to play? Is there kind of a protocol for that?
Yeah. I think I'd have to go back through the COVID refresher because I wasn't hoping for that situation. But I believe if we're down to the point where it's less than 10, just like the game, we forfeit the game, I think.
And I mean, I've read a lot today, especially like Michael Hansen might drop out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the players union is really upset there's going to be spectators at the games.
Yeah, and that's, I know, like, Hendrik Pekeler and Patrick Vincek, they both are boycotting, and with Hansen, discussing not playing, that's also another big push. And he played yesterday against Norway, so he's okay in that environment. I don't know if it's a boycott Egypt situation, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting, and that might play into our benefit if certain players don't want to show up. And that's where we've already got a nice leg up on the Austria. Unfortunately for Austria, that they had another player go down with an injury, but that was a key backcourt player that they're now 2 key backcourt players down, and that's a large part of their offense if you look at it from a statistical standpoint, and that plays to our advantage. So
what is USA's goal from this? Like, what is your goal? Is it to get out of the first round? What is the ultimate goal for the team?
Ultimate goal? Oh, man. I don't know about the ultimate goal. I know the main goal of the whole trip is win 1 game.
Okay.
The history of the Federation, we've never won a game in any of the World Championships we've ever competed in. We haven't competed since 2001. So priority number 1 is win a game. And if we win that first game against Austria, it's on to the next one. So, I'm a big, Urban Meyer is always 1 game at a time kind of mentality with the Buckeyes. So I like to follow the same style. So we're focused on Austria, and if we go to the President's Cup, then we're going to win all those games and focus on winning the President's Cup. But first game's Austria.
The first game is always the game you could upset.
Yeah.
That's the
surprise.
Team. Yeah, it's again. I mean, I saw some pictures. You guys watched Austria versus Germany, so I mean, at least you see the team. You got a little bit of feedback. Jackson, any questions?
I mean, another advantage is you guys haven't been there since 2001, so they have 0 film on you guys.
Exactly, and that's we're trying to keep it that way. So that's why we didn't film the game today. We didn't. We were working with which Mike, I might have to connect you with. It's a pretty cool app. It's called My Kuju. Not a product plug here. I'm just sharing information, but they reached out to us, and it was pretty cool for live streaming. I mean, I use OBS for the podcast, and this would be like an easier version of OBS specific for sports. So it has a score ticker in the corner. And like a clock. So I don't know if you've used Swish Live before. That's what the Irish national team got me hooked on. But Swish Live, you have to pay a monthly fee for. But this is a little bit more in depth because it's a mix of live stream broadcast with tagging. So when someone is at the camera, they click goal, and it's just like any other tagging program like XPS, but it's also live streaming to your, whatever website or outlet you want it to be. So it's pretty neat tool, but we did not get to use that today because Robert didn't want to give any secrets to the Austrians.
And it's called Mycujo?
Yeah, MyCujoo.
Okay, I'll look it up. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, is the whole staff going as well to Egypt?
No. So, most of the staff. So as far as the staff going to Egypt, it'll be myself, Robert, Julio, Andreas, and then our Dr. Brad, the physio, Dr. Pauly, orthopedic, Dr. Mike Hinson will be joining us there. And
Melissa?
Melissa will not be going. That's a big point of discussion. But there's also discussion about Patrick Jalabert from Chicago Inter to go as the head of delegation.
Okay.
So
what about Mark? I saw Mark in the picture.
Mark just happened to be here. Now that he's on the board, he was allowed to be here, and he's currently coaching in Volendam in Amsterdam. So he just made the trip over, see how the team was doing, talk with some folks.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I thought, because I think there was something about him. He's not part of coaching staff anymore. So then I was just surprised to see him in the team picture.
Correct. He forfeited his position as a coach in order to run for the athlete seat on the board. So which he recently was nominated to and joined the board last week.
And there's a goalie coach that's pretty.
Yes, Mikkel Barta. I forgot. Sorry. Yeah, he's pretty well distinguished. So, he's definitely a great asset. I know our goalies are pretty pumped to have him. So it's good situation for us.
And is he going to Egypt?
Yes.
Okay. Jackson, any questions?
No, nothing. Just interesting. It's good to hear all this stuff. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I know it's late. I don't want to keep you too much longer.
No worries.
Are you guys, just a few last questions, are you guys allowed to go watch other games? Or is that against policy?
I am pretty confident that we will not be allowed in the arena. So there's no overlap of teams, even for training. You have to be off the court. There's a 15-minute gap between each, game and practice, so that teams are never. You have to enter the arena at different times. You have to go to the locker room at different times, so there's time for cleaning. So there's never really any interaction in the training facility. As far as the hotel, I can't imagine we're not going to run into somebody in the hotel because we're going to be trapped there for a couple weeks. What they recently changed our hotel, which is pretty nice. Not going to brag here, but I was told it's the #1 hotel in Egypt. So
nice. And so, what about eating? You guys don't eat with other teams? It's a whole separate section for eating.
They didn't go into that detail in the protocol, so we'll see how that basically gets played out. But I would imagine they're going to have separate partitioned rooms for us to eat in. Like we'll have our own kind of eating hall. That's, in my mind, that seems like the most convenient way. This is a pretty large hotel, so I can imagine they're going to have space to accommodate. So where we're going to be at, there's going to be 6 teams instead of 4. So they added 2. They split 2 of the teams up. So Germany and one other country will be in the Marriott Mina house with us. As I guess our group. So Norway, France, Austria, ourselves, Germany, and one other country I cannot remember at this time. But so we'll see. There's not any real detail on that front yet.
Okay.
Is there any rehab equipment available to you guys? Like, do you guys have any facilities there for you guys to use?
Good question. So it specifically said we're not allowed to bring, certain equipment with us. But as far as like utilizing the training facility, like a weight room within the hotel, didn't say no. So I'd imagine it's still like kind of COVID protocol, wear your mask, clean off the equipment when you're done, kind of thing. Our doctors have brought quite a bit of items with them to accommodate, handling injuries and things like that. So I think they got it all handled pretty well. I guess you're probably talking more about, just different fitness equipment, which I think
rehab, like cold tubs, and if there's any like stuff like that. But
that's a good question about cold tubs, because we've been fortunate here. We got the sauna and the cold tubs just outside. It's just a puddle outside, but I know there will be a sauna. I don't know about cold tub. That's a good question.
Just make an ice bath in the bathtub, I guess.
Yeah, we will find a way. We're going
In
to have
North
a lot of free
America,
time.
we know how to use our resources. So
Exactly.
Just outside for 20 minutes and we're
yeah, exactly. Now, I know in the other worlds, I don't know how it is in Egypt. Are the gyms all over?
Yeah. So there's 4 locations for the gyms. So one was in blanking right now, Alexandria, so up to the northwest of Cairo. Another one is in the new capital, which is a very interesting story. I don't know how much you guys know about recent Egypt developments, but they're basically building a new capital city as a suburb to the existing capital city. So it's literally right outside, and they're just building a new giant city. So there's an arena there. There's the utilization of the arena that they normally use for, Egyptian, I think the African championships and things like that in downtown Cairo. And then we will be playing at the 6th of October Stadium, which is another suburb to the southwest that they actually renamed to Dr. Hassan Mustafa Arena.
Oh, wow. And do you guys have to move hotels for the next round?
Depends on how we finish. So if we survive group play and we move on, which the top 3 teams move on, we will stay in that hotel. If we end up going to the President's Cup, we will have to move hotels.
Okay. And to me, it seems like it changes almost every tournament how the next part of the qualification period happens. So if you finish top 3, how does the next round work?
So you get merged into, there's 4 groups of 6. So we will merge with Group F, which is Iceland, Algeria, Morocco, and Portugal. So the top 3 from those will then come and we'll play each of those top 3. And our results from the previous, at least that's what Andreas told me, is that our results from the previous round with the teams that are in will stand. Okay. So the goal differential win-loss. So we would have to do very well then against the new teams in order to make the top 2. And so from there, the top 2 move on from each of those 4 groups. So have 8, and then the rest is pretty straightforward from there.
And you guys do play every second day?
Correct. Yep. Every other day. Yep.
Every other day. And if you go to the second part, like if you finish 4th,
the President's Cup. Yep.
President's Cup. Do you just go into a round robin?
So the President's Cup. So then there's 8. There will be 8 teams in there, and so we will play. I think we only play 4 more games, because I think if we play President's Cup, it's 7 games. If we play the other way, I think it could be 9 games. But yeah, I think I'm not sure exactly how they're going to specify which teams we play, but I think it's Morocco. I shouldn't say Morocco. They maybe could pull off some upsets, but the folks in the groups E, F, G, H would play each other, and then I think we'd probably play one more game against one of the teams from the other groups, and then I don't think it's a full round robin just because of how many teams there are, but just standings off of those results, and that's where you finish. So I need to look a little bit more into that. It's a little down the road still for me, but
Jackson?
No, I just said, yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for this. The last big question that Jackson and I have is we're going to play Bet365. And I want to know how many goals USA is going to win that first game by, so we can make a lot of money.
Oh, boy. I will preface this with I am not allowed to aid in Olympic gambling, but just under the table, I would say it'd be a handful. I'm not saying a specific number, just less than just something in these number ranges. So you can just decide that on your own terms. I am not. I'm here all for. Again, I'm not allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. So it's one thing that I think is very important for the growth of handball, especially in the U.S. And I don't know what the scene is like in Canada with sports betting, but I think that's a ticket that we could really tap into as far as growth-wise, because there's a lot of degenerate gamblers out there, and I hate to do it that way, but people will bet on anything. They don't care. And with the lack of sports out there right now, I think we could really get some people interested in this tournament, especially with the U.S. being involved and gambling being legalized in a lot of new states. So, yeah, it's very exciting for me. And one of the things that I think pushes that movement is that people are betting on games, and then they're like, hey, why can't I watch this? Where can I watch this? And that incentivizes, your TV outlets to be like, okay, like there's more demand for these games to be, televised. If Vegas is pushing them like, hey, we got to get this game, on the screens because we got guys putting a lot of money on these games. I'm not, I'm not in that world at all. I don't gamble whatsoever, but I just feel like maybe it's ignorant of me to think that, but I think that that's a pathway worth pursuing.
Have you guys seen, like, since you've been in Denmark with all the social media you guys are doing, have anybody tracked to see if the traction has gone up, like with views and, has it gone up?
Yeah, Melissa, she's been tracking that, and we gain a couple hundred followers a day on Instagram. So it's definitely a pretty good success so far. Her goal was to get over 10,000 followers by the end of the week, and she did that in day
Really?
2. So she had to get like 500 to get there, and she pulled it off basically in 2 days. So it's been very good. And that's one of the things, like I mentioned earlier, it's like there's a lot of exposure here, and we've had a couple of the German guys take over the German sports network, doing some Instagram takeovers and things like that, which has been great. I don't have any idea how large or powerful those media outlets are, because obviously I just know ESPN, but they're telling me it's good, and I'm like, hey, I'm all for it, but we got to continue to expand that handball circle to other groups that don't know handball exists.
I would assume too, guys might find some new players out of all this, like people in Germany and all over might have American passports.
Dual cities,
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's how we found these guys. A lot of these new guys, they saw the World Championships, and they're like, oh, hey, I have a U.S. passport. Like, I should, apply for that team. And sure enough, here they are. So definitely a lot of potential there. And I'm, as John Ryan will hate on me as being the PLL fanboy that I am, I will continue to fight for the other American athletes out there that are grinding, trying to find their way into the national team. So,
who's gonna do social media in Egypt if Melissa's not there?
It's a good question. One that's been discussed a lot. She's going to remain in Copenhagen. She's going to take a train over to Copenhagen and stay there for the duration of the tournament. And we are bringing on some of one of our players' friends that runs social media accounts in Cairo. We got them the accreditation so that they can basically get us content quickly, send it to Melissa, she can upload it, and so on and so forth. So, or she might give them access to, post directly. So I don't know for sure exactly how it's going to go down, but I'm going to be helping them, as I've been helping her this week, get, more photos, more videos, connecting people with more conversations and things like that. So it's all PR is good PR for us right now.
And you're telling me earlier today, are you guys building a documentary out of this?
Yeah, so there's a guy that I've been working with, Mark Wright. We kind of started a little group called American Handball Associates, and our whole goal is just to get more awareness of the sport. And he is a big film guy, and he's been working on a piece about the 1972 team that they basically instead of going to Vietnam, they played handball, made it to the Olympics. So it's called Army Champs. So he's working on getting that finished. But in the meantime, I've been collecting, interviews from all the guys to send to him, just start kind of putting some vignettes together about, the journey and, where we've come and where's everybody's background from, just kind of compiling everybody's stories into one place. So it might not be a full documentary as you'd expect it to be, but it'll be a nice, informational piece, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, again, like I say, thank you for this. It's great to see USA Handball and the promotion of it, and it's exciting for all of us.
Yeah.
Even though it's like rivals between USA Canada in a good
We're
way,
on the same team.
but I think it's fantastic to see how you guys will do. I know that like Jackson, myself, and there's someone off to the side with Jackson Blaze that we're all going to be watching the game on the 14th there or 13th, whatever.
Oh,
yeah. And we want to wish you guys the best of luck. Yeah. And hopefully maybe in the middle of Egypt on a day off, we could kind of have a recap of how things have gone so far. But thank you
Absolutely.
for your time. And, from Alberta Handball, please give everyone the best of luck. And we're all cheering for you guys and want to see great successes and a big upset on the first day.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Mike, Jackson, thank you guys very much. And I will love to come on, and maybe I can bring some of the other guys. I know a lot of the guys are in bed right now. They're good boys going to bed early, and myself, I'm not. So, I can probably pick some of them up. They've been doing a lot of interviews recently, so it's been good for them. Good practice.
The last thing is, in 2015, I was coaching the junior men in Puerto Rico. We beat the USA team to win it, and it was Sam, the left back. I forgot Abu.
Yeah.
So there was players, and we were talking with some of the guys today, and we're like, the crazy, like if we would play them now, they would kick our butts, but we were able to beat them then, and to watch them now playing at the Senior Worlds, it's outstanding to see.
It's cool. That's one of the things that, these guys have been talking about is that, they're going to be going up against France and Norway, and those are players that you look up to and you're like, wow, like look at these guys. Now it's like, we're going to be going up against them on the same court, how to defend Saugason or, trying to stop an Abelo shot. It's like, wow, it's going to be a wild ride. So we'll see how it goes. And we're just looking forward to the opportunity. And I know, I've listened to Drew give the same story now like 4 times a day about just this opportunity that we're here to prove ourselves and show that, the Americas belong, and we're not just some team that got here because of monetary and economic benefit to the, the sport and things like that. But we're trying to make ourselves known, and there's a lot of progress. And I think that, to me, I look at what you guys have done in Alberta, and it's done the right way. And I've told you this before about trying to mimic and copy as much as possible. And it's something that we can definitely build off. And these guys want to have some success here to help grow things over in the States. And I hope that happens. And that wave will help ride for both our cases. So.
Well, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. And like we said, best of luck. And we'll be cheering you guys on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, JD.
See you later.